May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be ever acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Please be seated. Once again, good morning, St. Michael's. From my perspective, this has been a while in the making, and I am extremely excited that it has arrived. It's such a joy and a privilege to be here among you. My name is Andy Lobban. I have been invited by your vestry to serve for a year, more or less, as your interim rector. And I think it would be appropriate to begin this season just by offering you a little bit of my personal background. I won't make you sit here for the next 3 hours and hear the lengthy story. I answered the call to ministry in San Antonio, Texas at St. Andrew's Church. That would be at this point about 15 years ago. I received my Master of Divinity degree at the Seminary of the Southwest in Austin, Texas, which is one of our great institutions and seminaries of the Episcopal Church in the USA. After only a year of ministry down there, my heart really did want to come home. Northern California is home for me. I was born and bred in Palo Alto in the San Francisco Bay Area. This is before Palo Alto became what it is now. I couldn't dream in a million years, for reasons we all know too well, of going back there at this point, but it was really a joy to come back to where my heart really feels at home. I took a position as the fancy title was the Minor Canon for Social Justice, that's a mouthful, at Grace Cathedral, San Francisco. It basically meant associate priest, and I was to oversee the outreach and social justice programming. I know that this church has a very active life and ministry in that regard, and that's something I am very much looking forward to delving into with all of you. So I spent 4 years at that ministry, and then the prior 8 years I have been the rector of St. Bartholomew's Church down in Livermore, California, about an hour and a half southwest of here. Beautiful, small parish, wonderful, resilient people. It's what's known as a pastoral-sized church. And now I'm here. So, those are both the gifts and the challenges that I bring to this position, and I so look forward to a period of time of ministering for and ministering with you. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what is so unique and wonderful about this interim period. An interim rector is a little bit of a hard concept to wrap your head around. On the one hand, I've been invited to be the rector of the church in all of the usual senses of that word. But there is one huge exception, which is this is meant to be a very finite period of time with a very specific purpose. Together, we are, by God's grace and God's guidance, to walk together toward the time when you will choose and call a long-term rector, again, roughly a year from now. And that makes it a time of unique gifts and unique challenges. I can think of no day more fitting and appropriate than All Saints Sunday to begin such a journey. You might be asking yourself, why? Well, I don't know about you, but All Saints Sunday has been a source of some perplexity for me ever since I became a Christian and became accustomed to the calendar of the church and the calendar of the saints. It always made sense to me that we had capital S saint days. St. Francis Day, St. Peter and St. Paul, St. Mary Magdalene. We know the list. It made sense to me to honor and celebrate these great individuals who by their life and by their proclamation so exemplified the beauty and the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. But then, why do we get to this All Saints' Day, lowercase s? And really, it's only when I ponder something like this period of interim ministry that it makes such sense to me. On the one hand, we can't distance ourselves from All Saints' Day to the same extent that we can to, for example, a St. Peter's or St. Paul's Day. Those days are obviously dedicated to someone other than ourselves. But All Saints' Day, folks, that's as much about us as it is about anybody else. Please be very clear on what the definition of the word saint with a lowercase s is, because whether you like it or not, you are one. A saint is not somebody who is uniquely virtuous or godly. It's simply someone who in some way, shape, or form has said yes to the notion that Jesus Christ is Lord. That's all it takes to be part of this communion of saints that this All Saints' Day is about. And the biblical imagery for this is fascinating. It's a cloud. It's that great cloud of witnesses. We didn't hear it in today's scriptures, but it's spoken of to a large extent in the letter to the Hebrews. The communion of saints is thought to be like a cloud, one of those big fluffy things you see up in the sky. And clouds are beautiful, they are dramatic, but they have a key feature that the capital S saints don't have, which is you can't hold on to them. Ever tried on one of those winter mornings when the Tule fog settles in to the Sacramento Valley to grab a handful of it? Good luck, right? I mean, it's right there in front of you. There's no question it's there. You can feel it. You can see it. You can sense it. But you can't grab a hold of it. And so it is with the communion of all the saints. It's there. It's palpable. It's undeniable. But you cannot grab a hold of it. Now you may be wondering, I thought sermons were supposed to be about good news. Where's the good news in that? I'm so glad you asked. There's actually great news in that. Because this feast day of All Saints, which I think is so important to our understanding of an interim, of a discernment period in a church, helps us understand where the fine line is between idolatry, which, biblically speaking, we know is perhaps the greatest sin, and icon admiration, which is something important and admirable and helpful to our spiritual journey. Idolatry is worshiping someone or something that is less than God, as if it or they were God. It is way, way too easy to do that. We do that not only with the capital S saints of the past, but we do it with our leaders, our church leaders, our civic leaders, the people that we see as kind of being up on the pedestal that we look up to and admire in the present. We don't do it deliberately. Our minds and our souls just sort of start to slowly drift in that direction. Admiring the icon, on the other hand, is having all kinds of admiration and engagement for people, for institutions, for all the created things that we love and appreciate in this world, but understanding what they are. They're merely windows into something far, far greater, which is God alone. And that's why it's so helpful to spend a moment contemplating and pondering this communion of all saints. We can't idolize it because we can't grasp it. That's a gift, folks. And it's a gift that speaks so much to the work that we have to do right now as a church. Rather than lamenting the absence of stable, long-term leadership right now, let us instead look at this as a period where we're invited to take more seriously than ever the membership of each and every one of us in this glorious communion of saints. No one of us is any more significant or important than the other. We're all on completely equal footing. We're all those little tiny raindrops that make up that great cloud. And that it means that none of us doesn't have a role to play right now. During this interim period, please ponder prayerfully what kind of raindrop God is calling you to be in this great cloud of witnesses. Even if it's just a prayer partner, that is more important and significant than you can possibly imagine. And maybe you're being called to do more. Maybe you're being called to speak out, to write letters, to organize a prayer group, to take some kind of action. Whatever God is putting on your heart during this period of self-discovery and discernment and growth and coalescing for this Church of St. Michael's, I invite you to listen to that voice. So on this All Saints Sunday, please remember, yes, it can feel a little bit like being cut adrift when all you have to hang on to is the cloud. But that is not God playing some kind of cruel joke. That is rather God reminding you, reminding me, to always keep our vision trained on the one place where it truly belongs. And that is on the one around whose throne that great communion is gathered. Let that image be in your mind this morning. Let that image be in your mind throughout this entire period of discernment and growth. Amen.
Amen.